The very first question
Yep.
He's like, she's taking my time to check this my next thing. And I'm like, okay, your trunk. Like, my trunk is huge. He comes back in, he's like, oh my God, it's so much space for my trunk. What is inside? I really want to fit as much as I can in the house. Because I get the whole unlimited piece of ice cream really around the block.
That's what I'm afraid of.
I already have your phone number.
True, but I'm like,
How's he doing? Good. I haven't seen him. He's still coaching football. Well, make sure he plays ball. Good practice. My feelings are a little hurt.
You want to go back there with her? Go back there with her? Oh, okay. Really? I almost got hit coming home from work because somebody stopped at the stop sign. Did I have the right way? Luckily, I'm a nice person. Just wait. I'm going to record this show. Really? I used to stand on my front porch when I was working from home every day. Yeah. Right. You know what I would like to have the 4th of July, especially? I would like to have no parking on the choose the signs myself because if something happens, nice to meet you. If you can get any close to it, it takes me a little to reconsider it. Yeah, I'd like to meet the GDS.
I haven't got
Make sure you're logged in and all that good stuff. These 3 calls recently. Or emailed you recently. I just logged in. Let's go. There is already a case about it.
Can you
Well, you know what they're all going to come out. We're not going to clog your street. We're all going to come at 10. You're all going to come down 10th is what they'll say. Well, that's going to be real great for them. That's going to be really good. I used to stand on my front porch when I worked from home every day, and I would just stand there pretending I was recording. How's it going? Good to see you. I mean, you'd be amazed how many of them saw it.
Yeah, I did my surgery on this eye, so I get about 10%.
And if you give them specific,
It causes strain on these joints, so it's like
I don't even know what are the ones that test like.
Pretty good, my friend. Yeah. Thank you for all the information.
Was that helpful?
Oh, yeah.
Teach you to look?
Oh, I've been by quite a few times.
See what I mean?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, we're going
I
to
stay
stop.
with
I don't care.
falling under.
Well, they can undecided.
You got a dozen kids that run up and down the street.
Well, they done the survey.
Yeah. And just today, right? Turned across to walking home. 10 minutes and oh, and somebody dies.
I don't know what they gave her time.
Well, they got the proper manual for it.
She's such a good dog. Is she rotten?
I think it got so back to September.
Yeah.
They just pull you across the yard.
Yeah. She is strong. Not really. I just whose decision it was and how to be divorced. I didn't even know.
September 13th.
Okay.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, there's bad blood between the neighbors. So it's a real mess.
I can imagine.
I tried to get the one that was corner of the White House to come to bed and try to come back. I said, well, at least keep
Yeah.
You need any help?
Brian, he's on 10th Street. He said he's trying to come back. He said he's a mailman. He didn't know he was home. And he said if he gets home in time, he'll
5 weeks. Just add one to each
Pat's
row.
house.
They all have the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Outside the very corner.
Yeah. Sorry. I work
Hey, what's up?
Did she follow you? You follow her?
I don't know. It's odd though. It's just the Jennifer thing. Yeah.
Before this week's public space. Oh, gotcha. All right, yeah.
Right. Well, I know some of them are here.
Ready, Ben? All right, let's do it. I now call to order the committee of the whole meeting for August 21st, 2023. The time is 7 p.m. Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member Orr. Here.
Member Volt.
Here.
Member Schroy.
Here.
Member Waring.
Here.
Member McLeister.
Here.
Member Wyrick.
Here.
Member Matheny.
Here.
7 present.
All right, if everybody could remember to talk loudly, since there's a full room just talking across from everybody, that would help the court reporter out very much. So let's start off with community and economic development. Daryl?
Thank you, Matt. You may recall prior to our break, we began the process of removing properties that were OB, zoned OB, and reclassifying them. In one particular instance, we reclassified it, and the property owner, who unfortunately elected not to participate in the process, later came back and said, I would really prefer to have my property zoned RMFA. And so you may recall that we started that process, we sent it to the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission has reported us in the affirmative, and our next challenge on this is to set a public hearing. You have a map in your packet. The property is located in the northeast corner of Pittsburgh and Apple Grove. It's a little multi-family operation there. It's got a little house on it. So what I'd like to do tonight with council's concurrence is have the public hearing set for this for September 25th. Are there any questions or comments?
It's on the corner of Pittsburgh and Liberty.
Well, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh, just that general area.
Yes.
Liberty, I guess it's up a block. But the, does not alter, I guess, materially the use or future uses. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's move on to item 3B. We, as you may know, have acquired a number of 10 parcels in the first ward for park properties. This is in calculated, et cetera. And you have a map on page 15 of your packet. What we would like to do is send to the Planning Commission a recommendation that these properties be zoned per the map, either park and institutional, which is consistent with the planned use, or single-family large lot R7. Does the administration have anything to add at this point?
No.
Again, if you'll note, I'll draw your attention to it. Again, these are the areas both north and south of Stratavan. The property, I know we've got some people who might be interested here this evening, that on the map, if you look at the existing property MS and G, it says proposed P&I. That is the site of the community playing fields. And obviously Capley Park is going to go to the north, and that proposed R70 will serve as a buffer for the neighborhood to the west and north.
Looks nice.
Any questions or comments at this time? Again, we're going to send this to the PC. If there aren't any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay,
You
item.
need a motion in a second.
Well, let me have a motion. That's right. Let me have a motion that we send this to the Planning Commission. Thank you, clerk.
Destroy moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. All right, item 3C
I'm gonna recuse myself
is
from C.
to expand rental registration to all rental units in the city. You have at your place a brief summary prepared today by Ben regarding our progress to date. I would draw your attention to both the numbers, total registration, 1,500, and I would also bring your attention to I would also bring your attention to the third page, which looks at the rental registration inspection metrics. You may recall there was some discussion about not needing this. But I think the numbers,
You like data.
I like data, support the initiative. And I think that if we look at particularly the failed inspections by type, I think they are what we anticipated from the standpoint that these were the type of issues that would compromise safety of the occupant. Life safety, which would be smoke detectors and CO detectors. We've got electrical issues, and we have some natural gas supply issues, principally valving, I believe. I would also draw your attention to page 2, and this is probably a conversation down the road that you would just want to put in your hand, keep in your heads, is that we have a fairly good idea where we are in terms of rent. And you'll notice that our rents are probably what I would call moderate income renting. This is not high-end stuff. So you'll see that the average monthly rent is a mere $825. The median is $785. Does anyone have any questions or comments for this? Again, we're going to pick up all the rental properties now. Everyone, Mr. Matheny, everyone will be included.
I commend the administration on moving forward so quickly. I know we had our apprehensions at the beginning.
Wait, Dave, you have to speak up.
We had apprehensions at the beginning wanting to move to all rental units, and the administration asked for time to work through the process. And doing this in a year's time, great job.
Yeah.
So,
Eighth month.
so,
Eighth month is really wrapped up.
Yep,
For the
rolling
calendar
down
year.
January.
Well, and it gave us some, I think, chance to look at certain issues too, and maybe certain individuals. And Ben was amazing with that. You could call and say, hey, I talked to this constituent and they had this issue, and he would know why and how in the process and what it took to remedy it or not remedy it, or why it worked or didn't. And I think we had to learn that, and now going forward, it's gonna be a lot more simple. And I love your data. It's amazing.
Yep. And for those who are here, the importance of the data is it guides good policy making for us. The second thing that is not here on this page is the fact that we have been able to integrate a wide variety of other types of data tied to addresses, tied to rentals. We can map this out, and then we can tell you how many times the police department's been there, type of calls, how many times EMS has been there, property maintenance issues. So we have a fairly accurate snapshot of the community, whether it's rentals or owner-occupied. But this is really a good policy-making tool for us.
And I think the other thing is it's been on both sides. You've had renters that have said this has helped, and then you've
Say
had
it
also.
again, sorry. It's
Sorry,
really
I'm
hard to
sorry.
hear, guys.
I think it goes on both sides. You've had the renters who've said, hey, this has really helped, and then you've had the owners. And for those of you in the audience, this will be really hard to see, but I love colors and I love graphs, and it kind of looks like a snapshot of Cedar Point in a way, but it gives you an idea of, you may think you know what the violations are, or you may think why people failed inspections. But in this graph and how it breaks it down, it's everything from carbon monoxide, electrical failures, sanitation, plumbing, interior surface, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we all thought, oh, surely it's gonna be, everyone's missing a carbon monoxide. No, that was only 10.24%. And so to look at all these things has been, I think, really helpful and really upgraded our whole rental system. So, thank you.
And I think when it highlights deficiencies such as these,
Yeah.
it truly becomes a benefit to not only the property owner, but to the person living in the unit as well.
Yeah.
Have most of the owners of the rentals, are they been local people or out of towners?
A fair amount have been out of town, and those that are the most problematic are the ones from out of town. So
As we get to the bigger units, we're gonna run into.
we probably will. I guess some observations, just to make sure that council's aware, we've estimated under this next phase of the rental registration that it's probably another 1,500 units that are going to be in total. That's kind of, 1,500 now, so it's roughly double. We're going to try to do this without the addition of an additional inspector, but we're going to probably budget for one just in case, just to let you know when we start to have those discussions. It is a lot. At the time that we'll be starting phase 2, there'll be those from phase 1 that will be in the renewal. Some will be in the renewal process, depending on how long their license was. We did 6 months a year, 2 years, 3 years, to get the idea. I would say that, everyone needs to keep in mind that appearances can be deceiving. Something may look fairly decent from the outside, but when you get inside, that's a different story. And North Canton is not different than most other communities that have a high volume of rental properties. That there is a fair number of individuals who have problems keeping their place free of debris inside, which leads to issues for everyone. And it's interesting. I'll just share a couple, maybe one real good story that was of late. So we had a series of buildings that qualified for the first phase, and they failed some inspections. And so the building was managed by a property managing company that had a person on site who was there every day. So this tenant was asked to find other location to live by the landlord. They went in to hired somebody to clean it, but the property management company hired somebody, a property company that fixes things up, and they were kind of busy. So they subbed it out. And they subbed it out to some people that didn't have documentation. And they have a different view on how to clean things. And from where they hail, we're told that it's common to disinfect with gasoline. So this tenant in the adjoining unit called administration offices and said, "Hey, I smell gas," and so we're talking with this individual, and we get someone from the building department over to do a joint call with us, and she says, "Well, I smell gas," and our building inspector says that, "Ma'am, it's hard to smell gas. Natural gas is like the silent killer. You don't really smell it. No, I smell gas. It can't possibly be smelling gas." "What kind of gas do you think you're smelling?" "The kind that you find at BP." "Excuse me?" "Gasoline." We're on our way. So we get up there, and they had stripped out all the carpet and exposed the subfloors, which were all plywood. And they had literally taken gallons of gas and just poured it all over the floor to disinfect it. And that soaked, of course, former fire chief here, you know what that does, right? It soaks into the wood, and those fumes never go away. So now they have to gut it. They have to strip the building, remove all the subfloors and any of the studs that gas soaked into. All because of this program. It exposed a number of things. One, the weaknesses in property maintenance. So when someone says to us, "My property's maintained," we have to hire a company. It doesn't matter that you do. If you're not doing the maintenance and you subcontract it out to someone else, you're only as good as the people that you hire. But and then we've had a number of other ones where we've had an inordinate number of animals with warranted calls out to the Sheriff's Office and the Humane Society to deal with those issues. So we're very pleased with the results. We think that this will improve property values in addition to providing for life safety for the tenants. I think everybody has a piece in it that they can win. Many of the landlords have said they've never been in their apartments, any of these apartments, and the fact that we're going in them was a benefit for them. So we hope that with the next phase, it will go as well. We think with Ben's help, logistically, we'll be able to, because these buildings have lots of units, perhaps dedicate 1 or 2 days where that's all we do that day in order to get all the units through. Whereas right now, we're going from all over town back and forth, grabbing a unit here, 2 units there, that kind of thing. So hopefully this will be a little bit more efficient, and that's why we think we can get to it without having to hire another person.
Additional questions or comments for the administration at this time? If not, then I'm going to look for Mr. Matheny for a motion.
I will make that motion.
Second. To expand the registration to include all rental units and have this item placed on the next agenda. It's been motioned. There's a second. Before we vote, the record should reflect that Mr. Stroya did not participate in this conversation and has not voted to advance this matter. Motion, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. If the chief would summon Mr. Stroya, we'll wait for a second and then move on to item 3B, the proposal for a TIF. And we are going to, the record should reflect that Christina Wyrick is not participating in the discussion and has left the room. Musical chairs.
Hot out there.
Yeah. All right, we have from the administration a proposal which is authorized under the Ohio Revised Code to create a TIF. That is tax incentive financing. It can be used to redirect the tax funds from, in this case, the county and county entities.
Say again, the tax fund.
I'm sorry?
It can be
Speak
used
up.
to redirect the tax funds.
Taxes from real estate that would normally go to the county and county entities to be held by the city for the construction of public projects. Now, this is a non-school TIF. Schools continue to receive their tax flow, but we're just going to, if you will, collect those taxes and use them for our purposes. If you will go to your packet, you will find, and I apologize, I don't have the page number.
20.
Page 20, you will see a list of the permitted uses for a TIF. What's page 20?
Starts on page 20.
Yeah. Ben has placed the map on the screen. It shows you the boundaries of the TIF. So again, the non-school property tax revenues will be used by the city for public projects. These would be, for example, stormwater and flood remediation, construction of walking and multi-purpose paths. It's a wide variety of allowable uses for those funds. Be regulated under the Tax Incentive Review Council, reviewed annually, report made to the Department of Development. We believe that this TIF will generate approximately $73,000 a year. And I don't believe, Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we are required to spend that money annually. So we could set some aside for a project, husband the funds, and utilize it.
My understanding.
That is my understanding. And the duration of this TIF, I believe we are proposing 30 years, correct?
Yes.
$2 million.
And we should note that it's technically a TIF district since it involves
Yes,
a series of parcels.
yes. The TIF is defined by a map. It has a geographic description. The properties in there then are evaluated and tax calculated. Okay, administration, do you have anything to add? And let me just say also, TIFs are not uncommon. They're used all across the state of Ohio to support public projects. This is just simply a way for us not have to raise taxes on our residents, retain the funds within the city for the use on projects.
Yes, and I think you might want to point out as well that for properties in which it's already a building, it's going to remain a building, and the taxes that are currently paid will be distributed as they always have been. Doesn't affect those, it only affects
Future
new
taxes.
construction, future taxes. And we're trying to capture what we believe will be in this TIF district, what we think will be a lot of redevelopment that will occur in the future, as is occurring right now with the Meyer Development.
Okay, let's go around the table. Are there any questions? Mr. Matheny?
So as development continues to grow and the valuations of those properties increase in that 30-year period, that 73K will continually increase. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Generally, Dave, the law says that you, as Patrick noted, you can't, through either a tax abatement or some other tax initiative, remove those funds and use them. They're in place. They're already accounted for. So all you can do is just capture, looking forward,
Right.
what would be available.
Right.
And your point is, yes, as those
Future
valuations
development.
rise, that $73,000 will rise clearly over 30 years.
On the TIF district, can we set up another TIF district if need be? Or are we just limited to one TIF district?
No, you're not limited to the TIF districts. But your TIF, it's kind of a nuance, I guess, but your TIF starts to run eventually when it's enacted, in this particular TIF, for 30 years. And if you just picked another area, let's say,
Okay.
where there's a lot of existing structures, the clock could run out before you actually have redevelopment occurring. So you would really want to use your TIF district in an area where there is a lot of potential for new development. If we were to pick, just say, a TIF district on South Main Street, and there's nobody tearing anything down, nothing else could be built, each year goes by, you're not really collecting any TIF dollars, because as these two have said, the existing tax dollars are allocated the way they've always have been through all the different entities. So you really don't want to do the TIF until you know that there's a project. In the case we did the TIF a year ago on the Depot building, right? And we did, that was not a district, that was a specific parcel that we TIF'd. As we know, the potential benefactor of that did not follow through on all of their promises and obligations that we set them to. So as a result, that is was passed as a non-school TIF, and the balance that could have gone to them is going to the city.
Mr. McLeister?
Yeah, this is excellent.
Mrs. Warren?
I've seen other entities do it, and it works.
Mr. Story?
I'm good.
One last thing,
Yep.
Mr. Revolt, I'm sorry to interrupt. One last thing is a thank you to the administration for making this a non-school district TIF. It's important that the schools get their funds and their money. We keep those things separate.
Well, I appreciate that, comment, since I have been the administrator, and mainly with being the administrator under Mayor Wilder. As you know, we've had a marked improvement in our relationship with the schools. In fact, I would go so far as to say we have a relationship with the schools. And as a result, we've been able to work through a lot of issues and set common goals. And so in a number of different incentives that the city has tried to use to lure businesses here, we have not given a property tax abatement. We have not given a property tax abatement to Akron Children's Hospital, in spite of what has been circulating on social media. So the schools received 100% of those real estate property taxes. What was given to Akron Children's was an income tax abatement if they met certain thresholds, which they have. But that is not the same as property taxes. It's completely different.
You know, Mr. Brewer, I would, maybe a better returning to Akron Children's is what, returning to Akron Children's, what we really provided is a tax credit. The employees pay the taxes, we return the tax funds to the Akron Children's credit.
Yes, and Akron Children's, as the great influence that they have had on this community, has been gracious to donate their taxes back to the city park system as a kind of gift to the North Canton Parks.
I would also note parenthetically that in terms of state economic development, the job creation tax credit, we have a local one, which Patrick's just described, but the job creation tax credit is a fairly standard economic development tool to incent projects. And it is one that is performance-based. You can only return to the company what the employees have paid. And if they don't hit their target, they don't get the credit. Just that simple. And I think they've done very well down there, correct? Am I correct?
Yes, they have done very well. But since we're digressing, but we're on somewhat of the subject, I would say that we did the same type of job creation incentive tax credit for Debo. And there were a number of thresholds that they had to do. We did 2 occupancy tax or job creation tax credit plans for them on the first edition and then the second, but they have not been able to meet the standards that we have set. So they have not received an abatement from income taxes back.
That standard was job count.
Job count and certain deadlines that things had to be done by.
Great. Well, I think we've flogged this topic. Are there any other questions or comments? If none, then I'll look for a motion to place this on the agenda and a second to place this on Monday's agenda, or the next agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Story, I'm
We
done.
need to set the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we do it on the September 25 as well?
Yes, my suggestion is September 25 at 6:30.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we set it per the clerk's instruction.
Troy,
Second.
seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
All right, moving on to finance and property. Stephanie.
Okay. 4A, we are looking at appropriations for current expenses and expenditures. And this is what we do throughout the year, and we move monies to make the budget line up. So prior to preparing the tax budget, all the department heads are sent their detailed reports of their accounts to review. And when they do that, they look at line items that either maybe they've overspent or underspent, and then at that point we can assess kind of a better budget for what we do next year. And scarily, right, we're going to be like in the budget talks really soon again. So it really gives us a clear idea of where we are. So in this instance, just to give you, some idea of a few things. So we had a few delayed projects to 2024 that we're not moving forward with. Examples of that are the Civic Center windows, Memorial Legend, shade bench structures, City Hall elevators. We're also looking at Dogwood Park project and moving some funds from there. Increased budget for the EMS and IT security, enforcement, but we've received additional police forfeitures and opiate funds. So a lot of that goes into what we end up spending and what we don't end up spending. And so this is just really to bring it all in alliance, in accordance. So if you wanted any numbers for that, for example, let's see, the Dogwood shelter, for example, we're not going to be using $6,000 for a couple of the things that I talked about, $5,000 for the Dogwood pool, the park's at $31,000. So you add up all those funds that we're not using, those go back into the funds, and then we can rebudget those for the upcoming budget talks. Any thoughts, Madam Finance? Anything else you'd like to say, or? Okay. Jim? Okay. All right. Any thoughts from any of our council members? Okay. And again, we do this all year long. This is just a little bit different because typically we're asking, oh, we've spent this money, and this time, I guess it's like we want the money back, but it's a little bit like we did budget this to spend on those projects, and a lot of things can happen, whether different quotes don't come in correctly, or we've changed kind of some priorities, so that's why those monies get switched around. All right, if there's no other discussion, I will move that to the agenda.
Gold seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? All right. Number 4B. So this we're talking about parcels that our North Canton Community Improvement Corporation have had, and they are now giving to the city. We'd like to accept a donation of that. So 4B is for Capella Park. Am I saying that right? Capella, that's right. Kind of like they say in Hawaii. Capella Park, and then that will be used for athletic fields and different projects like that. So very kid-focused, I would say. Any thoughts on that? Okay. If there are no other comments on that, I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move that to the council agenda. And then 4C are even more properties that the North Canton Community Improvement Corporation, or CIC, also are donating to our city, and these are for economic development. Any thoughts or concerns or anything our administration would like to say?
I would just add that these parcels are located on Whipple and Wise Avenue on the western side of the city. They are adjacent to the city, and so in order to further develop our plans, we need the CIC to transfer these properties back to the city's name.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, if none, I move these to the council agenda.
Gold seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's it for finance and property.
All right, moving on to ordinance and rules, John.
Well, it's an ordinance amending various chapters of the property management code of the codified ordinance of the city of North Canton to ensure compliance with the state code. So we want to be with the state, so we don't have any changes. Some of them were like, like the handrails, no less than 30 inches, no more than 42 inches, stuff like that. It's just general cleanup of our charter. We need to be in compliance. There's also 2 liens that were, we can't get anything on the liens until we pass this. So I would recommend it be put on the agenda. I'd make a motion to do that. And then I'd like to maybe do this as an emergency so we can get that lien, so we're not held up any longer on the liens, what's
If
administration?
I might add a little color to that.
Yeah.
Member Orr. So in particular, as it relates to the amending the abatement procedures. So as you know, this city has never really had a program that dealt with really effectively dealing with nuisances. We've had a lot of window dressing on it over the decades. Some of you who are here will certainly attest to this. And so it was a matter of getting all the pieces together and actually writing the ordinances and the processes and how we go through and do things, you know, from legal down to the building department to administration, all this stuff. And so there's another part to it, is that the county auditor has certain preferences, standards, if you will, that they like to see in order to place a lien on a property as it relates to a nuisance claim. So this isn't unique to North Canton, it's just that we're now coming to do it. But other communities in Canton and surrounding areas do this. So we've met with the county auditor and talked through the things that are important to him that we make sure we reflect in our process. And we've made, in this amendment, we're making those changes, referencing specific sections of the Ohio Revised Code that he feels, that the county auditor feels are important for their process. So it's this collaboration, working with all the different agencies to make sure that in the end, the bottom line is that if you don't attend to your property in conformance with the community standards, there are one of two courses that three courses you can go. You can fix it and take care of the problem and everything is fine, or the city may come in and do the work and abate the process and cover our costs through a lien, or the city may hire someone out to come in and do the work, and the end result is we're still going to come to lien your property. Of course, we'll send them a bill first to see if they would like to pay, but then after that we would go down to the county auditor.
Thank you, Pat. As an emergency, what are your thoughts?
Okay.
So I'd like to, any council have any else to ask? I'd like to make a motion that we pass this, put it on the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
I'd also make a motion that we do an emergency for
Hold seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to personnel and safety. David?
Yes. So we're making a change to the administrative specialist position in order to adhere to federal fair labor standards. Currently it's an hourly position. We need to change that to a salary position. So we're putting in place in the codified ordinances that change. Ben, would you like to add anything? We good?
That would be
Nope.
the two of them down there.
Okay. You were looking, I thought maybe you had something to add.
We would add that, you know, just, this does not change their financial compensation. So they're still receiving the same pay. But the position, you know, we created it, you know, I think about a year ago when council granted this to us. And the positions, you know, we have grown in that, and the administrative specialists have, you know, certain autonomies and be able to make decisions without having to check back with myself or Catherine in regards to their duties. So we feel that in conversing about this, this is really more complying with, you know, the guidelines under federal law as to the responsibilities of an individual, and if they are, you know, somewhat autonomous versus hourly, where they would have to check, couldn't make a decision on their own.
Position exempt from overtime laws.
Yeah.
I say again.
position exempt from overtime laws. Okay.
So it's a non-exempt salary position?
We said it was exempt.
Oh, okay, exempt, okay.
Yes. Okay. Any questions, comments? I'd like to make a motion, and if I get a second to move this to the council agenda.
Vote seconds?
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good.
Moving on, utilities, formerly rubbish. Jamie?
Formerly rubbish, still rubbish, it depends on who you ask. So, first item that we have here on this agenda is item 7A. And this is an ordinance dealing with a perpetual storm sewer and drainage easement. And my notes show that this is over at Shale Coffee. This was a privately installed storm sewer. They're looking to dedicate it over to the city, which would mean that we would maintain it and we would take on an easement for that, and this is the process for that easement. And should note that that we're looking for an emergency with this as well. Any comments, Patrick?
I would tweak what you said with really one word.
Okay.
Which is that this was, there was a lot of, as a result of the great flooding, this was one of the areas down there behind Logan Sports and the apartments off of Rose Lane in Mississippi. And there was a lot of flooding that was going on there, and so it was not, this sewer fix was put in by the city. So it was not done privately. But we had to get an easement through the property in order to put it in to fix it. And that is what we are then recording here, is they're giving us that easement so that we'll be able to continue to maintain that throughout all time. And it's recorded, and we note that there's a lot of circumstances, I think, in the city that we weren't really sure of. And we like to today like to have a nice paper trail of who is agreeing to what and what the responsibilities are.
Gotcha. Okay. I just didn't know why I was labeling this out. So, okay. Thank you very much, Patrick. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move that we add this to the agenda.
Vote seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We move on to item 7B. And this is a similar situation. This is actually over, correct me if I'm wrong, it's right over by Aerotech Hobbies.
Yes.
And it's right along property lines affecting two properties over there. And this is correcting some flooding issues that they've had over there, which have been historical issues. So any comments, Patrick?
3 properties, not 2.
Oh, 3 properties, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the correction. Any?
Would like to say that it's nice to see that the administration is continuing to work on those sewer problems we've had. This one is in Ward 2. And I've talked to the owner, and it's been a concern. So thank you for just making the process correct.
And actually, it is in Ward 1.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That was the change this year.
That's all right.
Just barely.
Just barely, just barely. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I would move that we move this on to the council agenda.
Vote seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn.
Revolt moves. For revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, adjourn. Okay, we'll take a short break and then we will start the regular council meeting.
Yeah, like if you say if you look down past the stadium, that first street when you just on construction, is that Mars? Yes. Okay, so and I have another friend who lives over on the other side of Apple. And she's like, yeah, I wondered if there was a game at home. I thought they were home, but I haven't even heard of them. So it was just a change in direction. Because I was at home. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we could hear it. I would imagine. But like, if it's like more or less rumbling. Because he's like, I'm trying to relax on my patio and I can't even all I hear is the horn and the first and like, yeah, whatever. So I'll take that over whoever decided to take me for my stuff.
Alright, we are back up and running. Alright, you ready?
Yeah, don't worry, that was really Hey there, stranger.
She was
Good.
10.
She had a son who graduated with Scheider in 15. I don't know her. I don't know. I just on the side.
And I'll call to order the City Council meeting of August 21st, 2023. The time is 7:46 p.m. Opening prayer, Jamie.
All right. Please rise.
And stay standing.
Let us pray. Lord, make us an instrument of your peace. Where uncivil words prevail, show us how to model love. Help us remember the God-given dignity of all and invite others to do the same. Show us how to build bridges and not walls, and see first what unites us rather than how we diverge. Let us seek to understand before asking to be understood. Give us listening hearts filled with empathy and compassion. May we be clear in sharing our own positions, and respectful and civil in discussing those of others. Lord, help us to imitate your compassion and mercy. Make us instruments of your peace. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member Matheny.
Here.
Member Wyrick.
Here.
Member McLeister. Here. Member Ware.
Here.
Member Stroya.
Here.
Member Revolt. Here. Member Orr.
Here.
7 present.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second to approve as presented committee, city council, and public hearing minutes from June 26, 2023, minutes from July 10, 2023, the 2023 finance report, and the 2024 alternative tax budget.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, members of the public wishing to address council may do so. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes. Tonight will be open topic. This will serve as the only warning for everyone in attendance. Any violation of the rules will result in ejection from the premises. Anyone wishing to address council, please approach the podium and serve with your name and address.
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. I am greatly encouraged by the change in mindset up here. For 22 years, I have witnessed this city repeatedly give tax abatements, and you're giving away city school money. I've never heard of a mechanism in excluding a school money out of that. I don't know if everybody's aware, but I think it's like 69.9% of property tax money goes to the schools. I'll have to hand it to Mr. DiOrio for being aware of the need the schools have for their revenue. They desperately need it. Regarding the TIF that was mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit confused, and I guess maybe somebody can elaborate on it later. I guess the TIF only applies to that designated area. That's the tax money that you're collecting from just that designated area. And you're excluding 69.9% of the tax revenue that comes in. That leaves the other stakeholders in this. Basically 30% of that tax dollars, that goes to somebody. It goes, I think, to the 911 system, goes to the library, and I'm not sure who else. It's been a long time since I've looked at the breakdown. So I don't think it's, I believe in what we're doing here, but I just think it should be understanding that you're taking somebody's money and redirecting it somewhere else. So the library is not going to be receiving the revenue that they expected, because this is being carved out, the 911 system. Since Mr. Dior brought up the Akron Children's School System, I will admit I'll stand corrected, because I threw in, with the understanding that I've seen in 22 years, all this school money being diverted, I threw that in as a second argument in my post. But I will stand by the original intent of my post. Akron children employees, their taxes are paid to the city. The city is turning around and taking those tax dollars paid by the employees of Akron Children's and giving it back to the hospital. And then the hospital turns around and donates that money for the park, which is very nice, and I wasn't against the park. It's that you're giving Akron Children's Hospital an opportunity to take advantage of tax shelters, because that money that they now return back to the city as a donation is a tax write-off for them. That's the only point I'm trying to make. As we all know, there are upsides and downsides to every decision, and you decide whether the upside outweighs the downside. So thank you, Mr. DiOrio, for the clarifying, but 22 years of seeing school money diverted time and time again when it really wasn't needed. The economic activity would have taken place. We were just adding ice cream on the whole deal for them. And if somebody, if I don't know, Gina can delineate the other entities, 911, library, that are having some of their money diverted, and I think likely you're going to need some more money up there, because I'm concerned about the traffic issues that are going to result up there. I think Main Street's going to need to be widened up there. You're probably going to have to recreate pretty much what we see on Whipple. You're going to need a middle lane there, so traffic, all the traffic that's coming, can make an escape to the middle lane and then decide whether you can, it's clear to jump into the other two lanes. So anyway, you can clarify, you're taking somebody's money. I guess you have to decide if the purpose of doing that outweighs, like I said, library, 911, and I don't know who else is going to be missing their money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council? Good evening. Excuse
I'm Joe Race with the Building Industry Association of Stark in East Central Ohio. We're a nonprofit trade association representing 5 counties with about 100 builder members and another 400 associate members who are basically construction material suppliers, many of which live and work in North Canton. And I've been here periodically over the years, years ago, to complain about the way things were handled with the building department and spoken sometimes rudely. I'm sorry to admit, to some of the administrative members years ago. I'm here tonight to praise the current building department and Martin Van Gundy and Mr. Diorio for the changes that have occurred since you put Martin Van Gundy on, and we really appreciate it. I'll list 2 examples and I'll be brief. One most recently is the drainage ordinance that you introduced. If you could help me out with the details. All I remember is this: in the past, if we didn't like it, it was tough. But this time you introduced some drainage ordinances and you checked with us first, let us take a peek at the language, ask for some suggestions, thoughts, and comments. It really meant a lot to us, and we appreciate what you did. And of course, in our opinion, that's the way we think it ought to be. A little bit of give and take is fair and objective for everybody. So thank you so much for that. We really do appreciate it. Secondly, a couple of years ago, after interacting with Martin several times, I felt that like the city of North Canton, we have committees as well, about 19 of them. One of them is a committee called our Codes and Developers Council Committee. And I asked Martin to be the chairman of our Codes Committee. And my board, I've been there 28 years, my board was ready to fire me. They thought I was nuts. But I told them, I think we can trust this guy. I really think he's knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing, and I think he brings some content to the committee that would be good for all of our members. And that's exactly what's happened. So next year, I believe he'll be starting his 3rd year as our chairperson for the committee. It's been a wonderful thing. Martin has also recruited some North Canton employees, Gina, I believe, to help us with some of our events over the years, work in the Home and Garden Show and the Parade of Homes. There have been others, and we appreciate that as well. And I have to tell you, when I go to meetings nationally and even statewide, and I tell my counterparts that a CBO, a chief building official from a big city in our county, is the chairman of our Codes and Developers Council, they just can't believe it. So it's a wonderful thing that's worked out well. So I'm here to praise you for tonight and thank you so much for the interaction that we've been enjoying for a number of years since Martin's been on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Race, R-A-C-E.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Marcy King. I live at 1060 Dogwood Avenue, Northeast. This is my first visit to council, so you have to kind of bear with me. I'm a little nervous. Myself and several of our neighbors are here tonight to bring our concerns regarding the removal of the stop sign at the intersection of Dogwood and 10th Street. That stop sign has been there for more than 40 years because I have lived on Dogwood Avenue for 40 years this month, and that sign was there when I came. That intersection is one of the most busiest intersections, I feel, in North Canton City. We have the driveway to Hoover High School. We have all the sports fields that have been put on 7th Street. We have the neighborhood normal traffic. School bus routing from the north comes down Dogwood Avenue. The emergency squad goes up to the north on Dogwood Avenue. We have adults and kids walking that street, trying to cross the street. And I understand from one of my neighbors tonight, there has already been a fender bender. And I know that stop sign has only been gone 60 days, maybe. If you watch the intersection, people are still hesitating. Those of us that have lived in the North Canton City for years stop, even though there's not a stop sign there. And it's going to be a rear-ending event if somebody stops and somebody doesn't. So I think we're looking at a considerable amount of extra emergency calls, possibly, or accidents. I don't feel that this action was done, I'm not sure why the action was done, to tell you the truth. I never saw posting, I never saw a survey done, I've never saw anything that, a notice going out to the neighborhood, asking for comments, nothing, until the sign appeared 30 days before the stop sign was removed. And myself and several other neighbors that are here tonight wondering why. Why was it taken away, and is there any possibility that we can either put an officer there, which would take away from the police department? I'm sure that's not something that could happen, but we feel that you should consider putting that stop sign back and making it a four-way stop. Thank you.
Ma'am, can you spell your first and last name?
Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, King, K-I-N-G.
Thank you.
My name is Rothermel. I'm actually speaking on the same subject as well. I'm at 1017 Dogwood. I have been working from home for quite some time, and I've actually had to call the police several times because when there was a four-way stop at Dogwood, I would always witness students barely pausing at the stop sign when they were leaving Hoover at 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, all day, every day. Specific cars, I could tell them. I would call the police, I would call the school, and this has been the last 2 years plus. The removal of this stop sign is absolutely ridiculous. It's going to do nothing but to make it less safe than it's already been. I almost got hit today coming home from work because somebody stopped at the stop sign on Dogwood and didn't realize that I, on 10th, turning left, had the right of way. And luckily, I'm a nice person and stopped. It happens all the time. Since the stop sign has been gone, there have been so many near accidents. You need to put the stop sign back, please. We are begging you. There are people walking dogs, pushing children in strollers, riding bikes. This is a very busy street for people. We need the stop sign back. Please, we beg you. Thank you.
May I get your first and last name again?
Yes, Jen Rothermel. Spelled R-O-C-H-E-R-M-E-L. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Melissa Owens, and I'd just like to take the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm a candidate for Ward 3 City Council here in North Canton. I'm not running on any kind of radical agenda. I think that we have a winning team. I think we've heard a lot of great things from our council meeting, just that we've witnessed so far this evening. I work as a business analyst and a consultant that I work with leaders and teams, and I help organizations, use information to solve their problems, help people work together and communicate better. I just wanted to take the opportunity this evening to introduce you all to me, Melissa Owens, candidate for North Canton City Council here this fall.
Melissa, can you give your address?
Sure. It's 1034 Scheider Street South.
Pierpont, 333 Winston Avenue.
I want to begin by thanking Mayor Wilder for joining us last night over at Memorial Stadium for the annual youth football preview. Your presence is always appreciated at that event. I know our children feel extra special when the mayor is there to kick off the season for them. My husband, Chris, and I are here tonight. We have supported and led the organization for many years. We are currently in the process of transitioning away from those roles. We have graciously found people to take that over for us, and we wish them the best of luck. I just want to personally also thank you so much for the kind words last night, Mr. Wilder, for the message you shared to recognize both of us. That was very unexpected. It was very appreciated. That definitely created a core memory for myself. Over the years, however, the city has had a really special and unique relationship with the youth football program. One really needs to look no further than the history maintained by the North Canton Heritage Society to see how the program's really evolved over time. We have become a rich component of our community and its heritage. I think back to the pandemic just a few short years ago, the many hours that we spent on the phone, finding a way to work out a plan to carry out a safe and successful season without interruption. And it's those moments that I really value when it comes to how the city has supported that program. Youth football and cheer is really much, much more than just a game. It unites people, it promotes pride within the community, and it builds extended family. And during the pandemic, this really did become apparent to us more than ever when a child from a broken home messaged us repeatedly asking when could we start practicing. And this child really needed that outlet for his own mental health and his own escape. Those are the examples that really have shined to us as to why we do what we do at North Canton Youth Football and Cheer. I pray that the community continue to provide those opportunities for kids for decades. So for over 40 years, many of our teams have utilized Whitworth Park just up the street. That has been their home practice field for many years. It was to our benefit that the 8th grade team at the middle school who also practiced there would line the field, and then we could reap those benefits in the evening for youth practices. As the community has continued to lose green space through the improvements the school district is making, as well as some of the sale of their land, we definitely value the use of Whitworth Park more than ever. And since the pandemic, our league has seen a significant uptick in the number of registrations, which means an uptick in the number of teams. So as a result, we've placed 4 tackle teams and 2 flag football teams at Whitworth Park for evening practices. The recent decision by the city to require our league to begin registering and renting the park at a cost was unexpected and frankly disappointing. I never thought I'd see the day where there was a requirement for the league to book the park and eventually pay a nightly fee to use the park for the same purpose we have used it for decades. And as most of you are likely aware, we maintain an equipment shed on that property. Clearly that is and has been our home for many teams for many years. So I'm not really here to ask for any special favors because I've had great healthy dialogue with many of you in this room. Councilman Stroya and Revolt, thank you for your conversations. And Mr. Diorio, I cornered this poor man in the parking lot after voting just a few weeks ago, and he heard my concerns as well. But since then, the measures that have been taken to use Whitworth Park, they're very appreciated, so thank you. As of this evening, our league has booked Whitworth Park for use next year in 2024. We're thinking that far ahead, and for the very first time, we paid for it, over $1,000. We have encouraged our families to complete the city survey. We've asked them, please use that other field that's on there because basketball, tennis, soccer, and others were mentioned, but football is not listed as an area of concern for parents to check off and say, hey, we need some green space. So I hope you'll see some results. What is next? I would ask that the city would keep and maintain a close relationship with us. I know we're looking at the fields behind the Meyer property. That sounds very exciting and appealing. For the purpose of community use, we would ask that we would continue to work together as 2 units, build a safe environment for these kids to practice, for the league, have a secure place to go and do so. And I would just ask city leaders to continue to support the program, the new leaders, the new commissioner that's coming in, and maybe even look at the neighboring communities, see what those programs are doing, the support they're receiving from their cities and their townships that are associated with them. You might be surprised to find what you do. And then I would like to see it growing stronger, matching the relationships that similar to what we have up the street with Little League. I sit on that board of directors as well, and we appreciate you there. So it's through these programs that the city really supports all of these families far beyond the game. And together we continue to provide them with enrichment in their daily lives. We really do appreciate your support of our program. We hope it continues to ensure young boys and girls will grow into young men. And with that, thank you very much.
My name is Joann Smith. I live at 1057 Dogwood, Northeast. And I'm here to tell you that although we all know that the side streets on North Canton are supposed to be 25 miles an hour, I'm here to tell you that on Dogwood, nobody drives 25 miles an hour, especially the teenagers that are coming out of the school. They're racing up that school, and with 10th being not having a stop sign, they're going to come swinging around those corners and speeding down the street to Hull Avenue and wherever they go. I know that in the morning, it's very hard to get out of the driveway. I had an occasion where I had an appointment. So I'm pulling out of my driveway slowly. The traffic is backed up to Hull from down at 10th. And someone was kind enough, one of the students,
to let me out because there was no other way. And I had to back out slowly so that I could turn and at least go out to Hall and down Hall to get to my appointment. So I'm telling you that we really need to have that back there, or there's going to be some probably bad accidents. I hope not, but it's just, even without having a stop sign there, I mean, it's still going to be bad. We really need something there to stop the traffic so that people don't get killed. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening, Melanie J. Roll, 308 Portage Street, North Canton. This evening I would like to address 3C from tonight's Council of the Whole meeting. That would be amending Chapter 703, Registration of Rental Units. This legislation would take effect January 2024 and expand to all rental units in the city. As some of you might know, a citizens group with Councilman Doug Foltz attempted to launch a rental registration program several years ago. We were not able to get it across the finish line. You folks were. As I walk and drive through the city, I know some of those first units to be registered getting a fresh coat of exterior paint. I'm told tenants are getting new hot water tanks, and some units are getting electrical upgrades. This is what the program was designed to accomplish. As this expansion to all rental units comes before you for a vote, I encourage swift passage. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council tonight? Final call. Okay. Moving on. Ben, would you please read the title of ordinance 30-2023?
An ordinance amending Chapter 1136, Main Street Districts, specifically Section 1136.05, Schedule of Uses, Item Multi-Unit Dwelling of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Canton to permit multi-unit dwellings on ground floors when a property does not have frontage on Main Street or another important road in the city as designated by council.
Thank you. Just to refresh our conversation from long ago, as we began to look at the Main Street designations, we determined that we could make a technical correction to improve development opportunities on properties just off Main Street that weren't necessarily, those properties wouldn't be conducive to a mixed use, but would work better as a multi-unit with it at the ground floor. You may recall that on Main Street, business on the ground floor, mixed use, business on the ground floor, residential units above. So we looked at this, we determined that on properties not on Main Street, we could put some, if they wished, some multi-unit dwellings on the ground floor. And that's what this change allows. Came to us from the Planning Commission with its approval. We have voted for it previously. Are there any questions or comments at this time? This is the third and final. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adopt the third reading of ordinance 30-23.
Stroya moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben, would you please read the title of ordinance 32-2023?
An ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 1153, Off-Street Parking of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Canton.
Okay.
principal change that we have considered, and this is again the third and final reading for this change to the zoning code, is that we have concluded that we are going to not mandate a number of parking spaces for commercial properties, but to recommend them. And the argument is based upon the fact that we have limited commercial opportunities in town, A. B is we waste an inordinate amount of space in those commercially zoned areas on asphalt that is unused. And it doesn't matter the time of the year, the season, it sits there. So the question is, can we encourage the property owners to better utilize the site? And again, we're looking for two important things: capital investment, job growth. And those are the drivers of our schools and our municipality respectively. Will we get it? We don't know. But we've authorized the administration to consider requests as they come forward. Questions or comments before we vote?
I'd like to make one comment. I think Mr. Ray stated it earlier when he said how well the building department works. I've stated in the past concerns about parking spaces and the depth of those spaces. But I also mentioned that working within administration and the building department, they're going to come up with the right solution. And that is putting us to be a more friendly place for developers.
Yeah, considering where we were 60 months ago, I'd say we've turned the boat around, for sure. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then I'll make a motion to adopt the third reading of ordinance 32-23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Ben, would you please read the title of ordinance 38-2023? Sorry.
An ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 1107 subdivision regulations of the codified ordinances of the City of North Canton.
Okay, Street and Alley, this is me. This is, I can't believe this is still going on. The third reading of the subdivision regulations. Nothing's changed, even after the committee of the first one. There's nothing new. I will move that we adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to new business. Okay, can I have a motion and a second to suspend Council Rule 23 to allow for consideration of items 4A, 4B, 4C, 5A, 7A, and 7B from the preceding committee of the whole without a committee report.
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Ben, would you please read the title of ordinance 72-2023?
An ordinance authorizing appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures and related one-time permanent transfers of monies made to various funds for the period beginning January 1, 2023 and ending December 31, 2023.
Okay, we talked about this, and it's just moving different allocations around. This time we are bringing back monies basically from different budget provisions. You didn't have any questions during the committee report. Are there any right now? Okay, if none, I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rule of council requiring 3 readings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 72-2023 under suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben, would you please read the title of what is now ordinance 73-2023?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of North Canton to accept the donation of real property located on Strattabond Drive Northwest in the City of North Canton, Stark County, Ohio. Stark County parcel numbers 10017004, 9209047, 9209048, and 10002818 from the North Canton Community Improvement Corporation and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Okay, earlier we discussed this, and this is the Capolea property, and it will be improvement to athletic fields. Any questions or concerns? All right, I move to adopt.
Revolt seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion and a second to adopt ordinance 72-2023 under, what did it say?
723.
73-2023, sorry. Under suspension of the rules.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben, would you please read the title of ordinance 74-2023?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to accept the donation of real property located on Wise Avenue Northwest in Jackson Township, Stark County, Ohio. Here we go. Stark County parcel numbers 1617156, 1617968, 1001356, 1619794, 1619140, 1619141, 1617965, 1617964, 1600856, 1601717, 1602207, 1600450, 1601988, and 1601249 from the North Canton Community Improvement Corporation and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Could you read that?
See, we were going to say it. We were waiting.
Confused.
So we talked about this, thank you Ben for doing that, and looking at the Wise area, the road Wise, and just an improvement for economic development, more opportunities. If no other questions, I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 74-2023 under suspension of the rules?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Ben, would you please read the title of what is now ordinance 75-2023?
An ordinance amending various chapters of the Property Maintenance Code of the codified ordinances of the City of North Canton to ensure compliance with state code and amend abatement procedures and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Okay.
All right, Pat, thank you for giving us more insight on these. We didn't have any questions as he was explaining it, so I'll take a motion that we pass this, or add it to the, adopt. Sorry.
Not the first reading. Motion, Revolt will second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 75-2023 under suspension of the rules?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben, would you please read the title of what is now ordinance 78-2023?
77. Skip.
Oh, I'm sorry. 77.
Another great list of numbers.
Yeah.
An ordinance approving, confirming, and accepting a perpetual storm sewer and drainage easement on the property known as lots number 3,931, 3,932, 3,933, 3,934, 3,935, and 3,994, and being part of parcel numbers 920-5386, 100000196, 9200513, and 9200525, by and between the City of North Canton and Ohio Charter Municipal Corporation, grantee, and RLSL LLC, an Ohio Limited Liability Company, grantor, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
All right. I don't think a whole lot has changed since we talked about this just a few moments ago. So barring anything, any other comments, I would move that we adopt the first reading of ordinance 77.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 77-2023 under suspension of rules?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben, would you please read the title of what is now ordinance 78-2023?
An ordinance approving, confirming, and accepting a perpetual storm sewer and drainage easement on the property known as lots number 1,763, 1,764, and 1,765, and being part of parcels number 920-4394, 920-1473, and 920-4117, by and between the City of North Canton, an Ohio Charter Municipal Corporation grantee, and MJL LLC, an Ohio Limited Liability Company, Gabriel Real Estate Ventures LLC, an Ohio Limited Liability Company, and Barbara L. Ostrowski, grantors, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
All right, Jamie.
All right, just like the other one, we just discussed this, and unless anybody has anything to add, I would move that we adopt the first reading of ordinance 78, 2023.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 78-2023 under suspension of the rules?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, department reports. Let's start with Patrick.
Oh. Wow. All those numbers, I slipped into a coma. Coming out of it now. Okay, well, let's see. So this is a couple items based on just some of the comments from earlier in the night. I don't really have anything outside of a prepared report, but do feel it would be important to kind of share some thought processes. In regards to a TIF and the other stakeholders, whoever they may be, and some were mentioned, Stark County 911, library, North Canton Library, they will always get what they always got. You're not taking from them what they were getting. In the future, should the taxes that a property owner pays based on improvements made to the property, the portion that relates to the improvement is what they will not receive. But they weren't receiving it ever before because the improvement was never made. But everything that's existing there, let's just say, for example, taxes that are paid on all the parcels that comprise the Acme Plaza. All that property tax is exactly as it is. This TIF does not affect that. But should Acme, who owns the plaza, tear down, let's say, Where You Been, and put a high-rise apartment building there, not that it's permitted, I'm just using that as an example. The taxes that would go up based on that new structure would be there. The entities would still receive the tax as if Where You Been was still there, whatever that base number is. If it was $1,000, they would still get the $1,000. But if now the new taxes make it $4,000, they're not getting the $3,000. But their budgets are, not anticipating any additional revenues, so they shouldn't be a situation where they're having to scramble because money was taken away. Nothing was being taken away. So I just want to help try to clear that. It is very complicated. It's convoluted, I know. So perfectly happy to answer questions now and in the future about that. Melanie, thank you for your comments regarding the rental registration. Melanie understates it, but she's a driving force in this community for holding property standards high. So we appreciate that, and we are making a lot of progress with that. Holly, thank you for your comments. I did not consider it an inconvenience in any way that you stopped me to talk. I enjoyed the opportunity to really meet you. We had met once before, but alas, I meet a lot of people, and I'm not that good with faces. So I didn't recognize you at first. I acknowledged that, and I had not met your husband at all. But we appreciate your organization's flexibility in a difficult time. We look at other communities. We do talk to other communities, and we look at every community around us, and every one of those communities has a park levy. We do not. They've had park levies, and they've passed and renewed them and kept them going. People like the parks, and it's something that in 2024 that the administration will be coming to City Council to talk about why this community is in need of a park levy. And we acknowledge that, I think I said to you that night that there hadn't been a lot of strategic planning done in this community and looking at those growth needs. And, is that you? And probably nor the school either. And we, through Mayor Wilder's leadership, are willing to step into that void and create these community athletic fields that you will be able to use without a cost associated with it. As opposed to Whitwer, which we had mentioned before, that Whitwer is a park. It was supposed to be a park before it was being used by the various organizations. But this community athletic fields are being built for these organizations. So it will be there in all perpetuity. Okay, I think I saved the worst for last. All right, so I know I'm not going to win any popularity contest, nor am I trying to. Okay, I was brought here for a reason. I was minding my own business, doing my thing, when they called me and said, "We've got problems up here. Can you come fix them?" And through the graciousness of the mayor, he's seen hopefully the value that I've been bringing to the city in fixing things and looking at things that have been neglected. So there was a time in this community where people that sat in my seat or in the mayor's seat made it a practice to just put up a stop sign wherever somebody wanted it. Somebody would complain about traffic, put up a stop sign. Even though it is now and has always been illegal to regulate speed via placement of a stop sign. But in spite of that, this community embarked upon that process. Now, in today's age, the litigiousness of it, the city finds itself with exposure to signs that were not warranted. So we're going to talk a minute about that word, warranted. So believe it or not, there's an organization of traffic engineers, the International Association of Traffic Engineers, and they have developed standards that are used throughout the country as to relating to when a light or when a stop sign can be posted at an intersection to regulate traffic, not to regulate speed. And through the decades, these standards have been in place, and what you're supposed to do when a question comes up is like this, of a particular intersection, say where there isn't a stop sign, is you're supposed to then go to a certified traffic engineer, engage them to do a study, a traffic study, and over a period of time, look at the traffic count and the pedestrian count at this designated space. And then report back as to whether or not a sign is warranted, legally authorized. So if, let's say, the standard is you need to have so many cars per hour, and the number of cars going through are by and far not even in the ballpark to be close where you could fudge it. It just doesn't warrant it. And if you were to put a stop sign there, then that brings into question the legal liabilities if something were to happen, that the city could be held responsible because they weren't legally authorized to warrant putting a sign there. So rather than just put my head in the sand, so to speak, and just let things go, I'm not on a mission in my lifetime here to go around and find everyone there is, but I do think that we have to demonstrate, should the need ever arise, that the city is aware of these and that they're actively trying to remedy them. So since I've become administrator, every year I have rotated it from ward to ward to ward to ward. There's 4 wards, so just go around and look at ones that appear fairly obvious. And in this case, the 10th and Dogwood didn't warrant a 4-way stop. It warranted a 2-way stop. So we can not like it, we cannot accept it, but that is the reality. And that sign will not be going back on. We did just another one here a couple of days ago on the southwest side. I'm sure, John, you've received a lot of calls on Salway and Watkins.
And what?
Salway and Watkins was a 3-way stop. Wasn't warranted. So that sign was removed as well. Next year, Jamie, it's going to be in Ward 1, where they need to take to your place. So that's just the way, that's just how it is. I can't explain why they did what they did, keeping in mind that, in some instances, traffic patterns change over time. I'm sure when there were 3,000 employees at the Hoover Company, and they were all working, 3 shifts, and 1,000 or so people were leaving all at a particular time. I'm sure back in the day, Boss Hoover laid out those streets and those signs so that those cars could get out of town quickly, get off the job site quickly. But we don't have that anymore. So it does make sense for us to examine this. So I'm sorry to report that, but I thought that while you were all here, you deserve to hear the rationale. It was not done on a whim. It was done based upon a survey study being conducted by a certified engineer not employed by the city. They went out and got an outside independent person who was not beholden to give us any answer whatsoever but what their numbers suggest. And with that, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Finance, Gina and Jim.
You want to start?
Sure. So we're starting budget season. We met with all the department heads, and Gina and I are putting the budget together, and then we will be meeting with Patrick and the administration to finalize some things, and then bring a budget to you guys, and meet with all you guys, your accountants. So, what I got?
The tax budget that you approved earlier in the meeting, that always begins the budget cycle annually, and it is just the formal required process that we have to submit to the county auditor, every municipality, school district, any taxing entity, that requests for the county auditor to collect the mills that are in place, so whether it's unvoted mills or the levies. So we have listed each levy, and then we need to show that we have purpose and use for those funds. So it's a very high level budget, and then we will dive into the depths of all the different funds and line items with each department head and with the mayor and with Patrick, and so we will prepare a budget to be presented to you, a balanced budget. We're looking at the
1st of October. So we'll have our 3 readings, October and November, and it'll be in place 30 days after that, which would be by January 1 of next year. It'll be on the
Thank
market.
you. Mayor?
Yes, thank you, President Stroya. Folks, I want to thank you for your patience tonight. I know there was a lot of business going on with the Council of Committee of the Whole and the City Council. I appreciate our residents coming forward and sharing their thoughts and concerns. I do respect that when you come forward and share your comments and presentations. Thank you, Council, for conducting the business at hand tonight. We had a lot to catch up on coming out of recess. I want to thank our clerk of council and his staff for providing the data regarding the North Canton rental registration program. It's taken us probably into another phase that we'll be looking at. And again, I just think it's one way for us to oversee a safe living environment for those who rent. It holds our landlords accountable, and hopefully it'll preserve our neighborhoods and the integrity and the living quality in our neighborhoods. That 6 acres up there behind the new Meyer, when I saw that come available, I said, you know what, we have limited green space for our youth activities, and I'm hoping that when that gets finished, we'll have more opportunity, good parking out there for putting some multi-purpose fields, probably grass, okay, but you know, for soccer, lacrosse, and football. So that was one of the goals I had. And in the comments too about the new developments up there, one of my ideas and goals was working with our schools, and I wanted to make sure our schools were made whole and safe. And that's why, if this is the correct wording, I wasn't in favor of tax abatements for any of the businesses coming in up there. They're going to pay their fair share of property taxes for our schools. And that was one of the things I was holding fast on. And nothing was going to get approved without making our schools whole. Now, if you'll bear with me, I'd like to take you on a little bit of a journey since our last meeting in July, and some of the things that have occurred that we've gone through. Of course, we had a very successful JC Safety Town, which was held at Zion Lutheran Church. I had a proclamation for the North Canton Garden Club, who celebrated their 75th anniversary in serving our community. Thank them very much. I had the opportunity in July, this is from July 17th to the 31st, excuse me. We swore into part-time firefighter, EMTs, at the fire department. The association I belong to, the Mayor's Association of Portage, Stark, and Summit County, they have an annual golf outing. We had 127 participants at Arrowhead Golf and Event Center. Rave reviews from the association of the quality of the course and also the service that was provided to them. Also, I had the opportunity to swear in a full-time police officer for the city. Stark Parks worked with Walsh University for their annual fundraiser out at the Hoover Dance Hall. Had an opportunity to participate in that. And of course, what we can't forget celebrating the ADA Day at Whole Lotta Love Latte Cafe. For August, from August 1st to the 20th, had an opportunity to swear in a part-time firefighter, EMT, again at the fire department. I want to thank our staff who could fill in for me. We team with Tom Todd presentations for the North Canton Middle School. And this is where students meet for a week, exploring various ideas and various important locations for new activities or projects or economic development with a special emphasis on community development. I want to thank our staff for doing that, and they value our city administration to be a part of this and listen to their ideas and what they have to say, and some of them are pretty cool. I think that can still come through. Also had the opportunity to attend the Main Street Festival. We had a city booth there. I think that's valuable for anyone to come in, talk to our people. I know it was staffed by Mr. Young and Danielle Swinehart from our administration. And also had an opportunity to complete a questionnaire, either online or in person. Some of you may not realize, but 30 years ago, the end was Desert Storm. And I was honored to present a proclamation to the 762nd Transportation Company, located right here at the Reserve Building in North Canton, our extended North Canton community. And we did that over at the Fold Center the same day as the Main Street Festival. And they're very touched by the proclamation that I gave to them. Also on that day, I was able to be present for the Overdose Awareness Day at Centennial Plaza in Canton on that same day with Tom Burnaby, Mayor Burnaby, that we had an opportunity to just address and give some remarks how important the numerous community organizations we have that can help people, whether it be with drug, alcohol, or in a mental crisis, or that we have available for them. So I was very honored to be a part of that. My relationship with Walsh University, I think, has really blossomed. I was a guest of President Collins, Tim Collins, and his wife Brenda, as they had their convocation center, convocation during in August here. And I had the opportunity to welcome Father Albert as the university chaplain. And they have about 277 employees out there. And as we all should know by now, the freshmen have reported, and school is in full session for them. Thank you, Dr. Collins. Also, in August, we welcomed Congresswoman Amelia Sykes, our Congress from our District 13. She invited an open invitation to North Canton community for, and that was hosted by Walsh University at the Barrett Center. She brought us up to date on several things for our community, be it from Social Security to veterans who, under the new, I think it's a PACT Act, that came through. And that was very informative. And she's been on the forefront for that. Very thankful for that. And I was also invited to be a part of the grand opening for the Costco Wholesale Jackson Township - North Canton. So just want to know. So I did make a proclamation for them on that. I was at the grand opening on the 17th, I believe, at 7:30 in the morning. And I welcomed them as part of our greater North Canton community. And I was very honored to do that. And a fun fact was, again, I had the opportunity on Sunday night to attend the 70th year of the North Canton Youth Football Association, and be a part of the introductions and recognizing the teams and cheerleaders who have been a part of our community for that long, and an opportunity to recognize Holly and Chris Pierpont for their over 17 years of leadership and overseeing some of the program activities and their service on the board of directors. That's that part. First day of school is right around the corner. It's Friday, August the 25th, and grades 6 to 9 will be starting this coming Friday. On Saturday, August the 26th, I have an opportunity. I was invited to be a part of the North Canton City Schools ribbon cutting and grand opening for our two schools. The North Canton Primary School is 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Of course, that's at 200 Charlotte Street Northwest. And the ribbon cutting for the North Canton Intermediate School will be following that, and that'll be 11:30 to 12:30 at 150 Claremont. So I'm very excited to have our two new schools open up. You know, when you meet those kindergartners or first graders or third graders, even those fifth graders, they are so excited about going to a new school. And that's all I've heard from my association with young people when I'm out and about. We welcome back the first day of school, our St. Paul's School. They started actually on Monday, August the 21st. So again, a general welcome back to all of their students and staff. A tidbit of useful information, hopefully, mosquito fogging, okay? That's going to start today on Monday, 8/21. And that's the northeast section. Tuesday, the 22nd, will be the southeast. Wednesday, the 23rd, will be the northwest section.
And then on Thursday, the 24th of August, we'll take care of the southwest section. And of course, that's always contingent on high winds and rain and things like that. Any questions? Don't call the mayor. Call 499-8223, extension 1008, okay? They'll handle all the questions for you. If you haven't noticed, our fall edition of the North Canton Sun is out and about. Thank you to our clerk and his staff and our administrative staff. And it has a wonderful update on our 2023 master plan. One of the council's agreements was every September we would review our master plan to see how we're going through that, how we're working with that. And there's a lot of good information again for us in the North Canton Sun. I thank the people who work behind that. If you're not aware, the Whitworth Park Picnic Shelter is closed right now. It's in need of some major repairs, and that's going to be closed from today, the 21st, through the 25th. And again, any questions, don't call the mayor. Call 330-499-8223 and option 4, and they'll answer all your questions, okay? And I'll answer your questions, you know that. And you know, folks, again, I can't thank the residents who live on Wise Avenue Northeast for their patience as we have done the resurfacing and the sidewalks and the curbing and the driveway aprons. If you haven't walked on those big sidewalks, we eliminated the little tree lawn there. And for our bus transportation at the North Canton City Schools, I can't thank our people enough for their patience as we worked on those improvements and repairs in that area. In closing,
I certainly would. It's from the mayor in closing, addressed to the citizens of North Canton. Thank you for your sympathy and support regarding the recent passing of my wife, Mary. I'm proud and dedicated to be your mayor, and I will continue to lead with purpose and commitment for the betterment of our community. We thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Ben, Council Club.
I'm going to start by sort of stealing some of Dave's realm, just because it's personal to me.
Ben, can you speak up?
I'm going to start by stealing some of Dave's authority, just because the topic is personal to me. As most of you know, all summer we were joined by an intern named Zach Buckler. He had a very similar experience to what I had when I was an intern for a summer many years ago, and he spent much of his summer working on our survey program. He also helped a while back. Patrick gave you all an economic development presentation. He helped greatly with that. But he had to leave us, but he did an excellent job, and I just wanted to publicly thank him and wish him the best as he returns to UNC Chapel Hill. And you will see more of his work on September 11th, which leads me into my next item, which is one of our speakers mentioned the survey. The results will be formally presented to you all on the 11th. It did close on August 15th. We are in the process of running the numbers, doing crosstabs, all those fun statistical analyses. As a sneak peek, football did make it into the top 15, but you were not the highest write-in. Pickleball, pretty much so.
Never ends.
That's my report.
Thank you, Ben. Let's start with Ward 1, Jamie.
Okay, I'm going to join Patrick in thanking Melanie for coming and speaking tonight. I believe you were my first phone call when we did phase 1 of the rental registration last year. And thank you for your comments and suggestions. And I believe what we read tonight was the culmination of your efforts. I think that you suggested that it should be for everything. And Told you to just give us a little bit of time, but thank you for your comments this evening. And I think the mayor said it, thank you, Ben, for presenting the information in a well laid out graphic format that we all could understand, so thank you. I want to thank the North Canton Chamber of Commerce as well as the 720 Market folks for an absolutely fantastic Main Street Festival. Thought that was great, something that I always look forward to, although sadly it usually signifies the end of summer. So I think that's all I have to share this evening, so give the floor back.
All right, thank you, James. David.
Okay. So for personnel and safety, I'd like to do a shout out to Kyle Burns. He was sworn in as a new police officer. Officer Burns earned an associate degree in criminology from Kent State, completed the Ohio Peace Officers Basic Training Program at Stark State in 2016. He's been a law enforcement officer with Stark Park since graduation in January of 2019. Gained a dual commission through Walsh University, working part-time as a member of campus police. Officer Burns is a firearms instructor, EMT certified, worked part-time on the U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Task Force. Highly recommended. Other additions, and as I go through this, Ms. Farina was kind enough to send me some additions, and I talk about this frequently, how important having the right people in the right positions to make this city what it needs to be for its residents. So we have a new full-time service worker in the sanitary sewer department. His name's Jesse Bing. Comes with sewer experience from Humbert Sanitary. The water treatment plant hired a full-time non-certified water operator, Stephen Nutt. He's pursuing his Class 1 water license with plans to move up and grow with the city. And then another shout out to Officer Maley, who was awarded a, I lost it, Police Officer of the Year, voted on by his peers. And that was the first time award sponsored by local businesses. So as the mayor had mentioned, with school starting and safety issues and all of those things that come into mind, I urge the citizens to be careful, to watch your speed, to look for these kids as they're walking to class, to be very careful. And I would like to call out Chief Kemp, if you would give this list of the resource officers that are working this year with the schools.
We have Officer Michael Attaya at the high school, Officer Bill Taylor, and Community Canine Therapy Dog and Training Kona at the middle school. Officer Taylor is also the DARE officer. We will be teaching DARE in the 5th grade and 7th grade levels this year and next year until we catch that gap in between, and we will settle in at 5th grade. We also have Officer Mike Maley. He is at the primary school, and Officer Nick Kukulis, who is at the intermediate. Correction, I got those mixed up. No, I don't. You're making me do this from memory on the spot.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
It's in the newsletter.
Nick Kukulis is at the primary school. Mike Maley is at the intermediate school.
Thank you, Chief Kemp. And that's a very important aspect of getting the students familiar with the police officers and the resources that they provide and being trusted. So just a shout out to them and the work that they do. That's my report.
Thanks, David. Ward 3, Stephanie.
Okay, I won't duplicate what others have said, but thank you to those that spoke. Melanie, I ran into Doug Foltz at the football game, and he was so excited. And he mentioned your name too about the rental registration, and so you were the biggest advocate for many, many years. So thank you for that. And I don't think we would have been able to do it without Ben and the behind the scenes. And this is, oh my gosh, why it's so important that we could change what this role meant, and to our community and to council and to administration, what we're able to do with your knowledge and expertise and learning expertise. It's not like you knew how to figure this, you didn't come with this. This wasn't a class that you were able to take at Walsh University. So I thank you for realizing the value and really putting the time and effort into it and dealing with some of those constituents that were kind of like, what's going on and what does this mean? So truly, thank you, thank you. I didn't know that the value it added to our community until it was done. truly. Another program that we have is this really awesome North Canton Sun, and you should get it in the paper, but David, when you talked about, look, resource officers, you can see that, and the pictures, and Chief Kemp, you can see everything that you probably added to this and probably wrote yourself. Ben also writes many of the articles. I asked him how many he wrote, and he wrote 5 for this. But it's truly, it tells you so many things about the pool, parking, water, the leaves that are going to be coming up, what you can do with the leaves. Talked a lot about this time, and Bill Strominger, you're here, and thank you for all of your help and support with the master plan. We went through that a lot with council. We went to many meetings for the community and asked a lot of questions, and we adopted many, many of the suggestions. We hired where was the company from, Bill? I don't even remember where the group was. The
Design Collaborative?
Yeah. And not everybody, not everybody knows exactly what we want in North Canton, and so we didn't adopt everything, but those things that we did adopt are really valued and I think are going to move our community forward. So when you get this, great resource. And then lastly, Walsh is putting on this U.S. National Security Policy panel, and it's on September 5th. And the people that are coming to our community to speak, I mean, they're admirals, they're past ambassadors, they're Dick Cheney's national security advisor. Really a great opportunity to just hear and see what's going on, and it's so neat that Walsh is doing this for our community. So you can sign up. There's so many different ways to sign up, but they're trying to fill the gymnasium, and I just think when you have some of these people that come to our community, it's worthwhile going to these. And Mayor, thank you for continuing to go to all the things. I see you at everything you go to, and thank you. Your support is needed, and you know how well you're loved. So thank you.
I don't know about
Well, I'll keep mine short. Thanks, Pat, for all the help you've given me, and talked to the different residents and stuff on parking. I continue to go knock on some doors and try to talk to some residents. The city's doing great right now. Got a lot of great things happening, and we're just on the cusp of it. Many.
Speak up, John.
We're on the cusp of many great things happening in this city. So it's great to have the attendance tonight. That's great. We invite you back. We meet every Monday. So come on back and voice your opinions, because they are being heard. So that's all my report.
All right, thanks, John. Daryl?
Well, Mayor, first of all, I want to tell you that I think you command the affection and respect of our community. And we share your sorrow with Mary's passing. I think tonight I want to make sure that we applaud the administration for introducing the idea of a TIF into our development projects on North Main Street. It's creative, and what may be lost in some of the conversation is that this is a mechanism to fund big projects without having to go to the ballot or strain our existing revenue streams. Terrific potential down the road as that area of our community builds up. I think it's important for the citizens here tonight to understand that economic development is a fairly nuanced activity. It requires great judgment, often negotiation. Many times we're in competitive situations, and frankly, incentives are necessary. It may be a job creation tax credit, like Diebold or Akron Children's. And sometimes it may, depending on the nature of the project, require a tax abatement. I think over the last 60 months, we've been able to do terrific projects without going to the tax abatement route. And I think that's critical, because we do want to hold the schools whole wherever possible. And I think we've been good to our commitment. But projects vary. And there are many tools. And it's the combination of those, how those tools fit together that deliver good results. I think it's important that the record reflect that, and I regret that I wasn't here in 2015, but Mr. Diorio alluded to the fact that we did not use a tax abatement at Akron Children's, we used a job creation tax credit. But it's important to remember, and that project is now, I think, almost 10 years old, or whenever the conversations began, 2015 or before?
I regret to tell you that it was after that because I negotiated. So
All right.
It had to be when I got here in 2017.
2017. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong.
We're in year 4, according to finance.
Okay, year 4. I believe that that project was competitive. And again, I think we had Mr. Diorio's judgment, his negotiating skills to deliver a $10 million project to this community and all the attendant jobs. It would have been relatively easy for that project to go across the street into Jackson Township. And that's what's at stake many times in development, is who are you competing with and how do you get that project inside your corporate limits? And that's where incentives come in. So I think we've been good to our word with the schools. We're in a good spot. And again, as I look at the TIF, it's money out of our pockets. If we can pull off a big project, maybe we ought to use it. That's my report.
All right, Christina.
I'm trying to be short. We've been here a long time. I attended the Main Street Festival recap meeting this morning, and I've seen so many iterations of that event, and just wanted to say Danielle Swinehart, who kind of took the lead for the city on that event, is an absolute rock star. She's been with us less than a year, and just really had such a commitment to that event and to the community, and she's got that Leslie Knope attitude, and I am so proud of her for the work that she did, and also of Zach and Santana from the Chamber of Commerce.
Wait, I can't hear you.
Sorry, Zach and Santana from the Chamber of Commerce as well. And then sort of piggybacking on what Patrick said regarding a parks levy, anxious to work with administration on, what that might look like. I attended the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association conference a couple of years ago, and he's absolutely right. Everyone has a Parks and Recreation department. Everyone has a parks levy. We don't have it. We want to do all the things. We want to have all the things. So I'm anxious to kind of see what we can do with that. That's all.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for coming. There's not much left to be said that hasn't been said. Mayor, our prayers are with you. We love you. That's the most important thing. Final call for new business. Okay, let's go over the meetings calendar real quick. On August 28th, we'll have a regular city council meeting. On September 4th, it's Labor Day, no meeting. September 11th, we will have a committee of the whole meeting and a regular city council meeting. September 18th will be a committee of the whole meeting, and September 25th is a regular city council meeting. Did I say that right, or did I? Okay, you got it right. You're good. All right, and now let's have maybe a 20-minute presentation on the history of Northampton.
I'll bet you entertain a motion to adjourn.
Right, let's do that.
I make the motion.
All right.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Begin by directing everyone's attention to the